Hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Some people say parenthood changes everything, but for some, it apparently only changes the excuse for cheating. Today on rSpace, the ultimate scapegoat. Wife blamed our child for making her cheat. I made sure to get full custody and leave her with nothing. I, 30 male, have been married to Fiona, 29 female, for 3 years now. And we had a child about a year ago. My son is the most important person in the world to me. I know there's this school of thought that a married couple should put each other first before their children, but when you actually have a child, it's hard to follow that. I loved Fiona intensely, but I just loved our son even more. At this point, I don't know if I have any love in me for Fiona because she just ruined everything that we were building. Fiona and I both wanted children, so our son coming wasn't a problem for us. We did hope to wait a little bit longer, but happy mistakes happen, and that's how our son came around. We had been married for 2 years at that point, so it wasn't like some kind of major inconvenience. She gave the impression that it wasn't a big deal, and I was ready to defer to whatever she wanted. So when she said we should go ahead with the pregnancy, I was ecstatic. 9 months later, as it tends to go, my son was introduced into the world, and thankfully, my wife had a very uncomplicated pregnancy and a safe delivery. However, parenthood can be very tough, and soon after my son was born, my wife was diagnosed with postpartum depression. I really took up the mantle to help take the load off of her, and I could see that it was extremely tough, but I didn't complain because I didn't mind taking care of my own child, especially if it would help my wife. She was placed on medication during that time. We made very regular doctorate visits, and in about 2 months, she was much better. The thing is, as much as I could tell that things were a lot better than they were before, it seemed to me like she didn't care as deeply about our son as I did. Even when we were planning his first birthday, she wasn't as concerned about the whole thing as I was, and that concerned me. Part of me wondered whether my wife hated our son. However, I had stumbled in on them playing before, and she didn't act like she didn't love him in those moments. In other moments, though, she seemed very indifferent, like she'd rather not have to put in any effort if it had to do with him. I talked to her about it once and asked if she wanted to see a doctor about it, but she said that nothing was wrong with her and that sometimes she was tired, and that was it. I told her that I thought it was more than just tiredness, but she refused to see what I was seeing. It nearly turned into an argument, so I left it, and I never brought it up after then. I hoped that I'd get the chance to see how that behavior would change as our son grew older, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that chance since our family is about to break apart, and it's all her fault. I ended up finding out that Fiona was having an affair, and the worst part of the entire thing was that she did an absolutely horrible job hiding it. She'd come back home much later than usual, and then, when she showed up, she would struggle to lie about where she was. I asked her once if there was something going on with another guy, and she stumbled so badly over her words that I almost could have taken that as proof. The thing is, our son was extremely young, and I kept trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because I didn't want us to get divorced when he was so young. In the end, she's pushed me to that point, and there's little else I can do. One night, she came back home and she was really drunk. It wasn't usual for her to come home that wasted, so I flew off the handle and asked her where she had been. I had to ask about 3 times before she said that she had been with Taylor. I didn't know who Taylor was, so I asked her, but she was too concerned with the shoes she was struggling to take off. I kept asking, and eventually she managed to say, "Taylor is better than you. That's who he is." At that point, I just grabbed her phone and started going through it, right in front of her. She made a drunken swipe for it, but when she missed, she gave up. She was so drunk that she probably wouldn't even remember everything. I found her messages with Taylor and found out that he was some guy that she had met at the bar a few months back. Apparently, they had been meeting up every now and then to sleep together, and that very night had been one of those nights. The second time she met up with him, he sent his address to her, so I sent him a message right then, saying that she forgot something at his place and I headed there. Looking back, it was extremely reckless of me, especially because I took my son with me. I wasn't planning to be violent, but I wanted him to know the person he was sleeping with. He approached the car, and when I got out instead of Fiona, he was very shocked. I cut to the chase and told him that my wife had just gotten back home, absolutely wasted, and I knew that she had come from this place. He said he didn't know that she was married, and I believed him. I also let him know that the same woman had a 1-year-old child in the back of the car I had just brought, but she was prioritizing partying and sleeping with him instead. I told him that I couldn't do anything to stop him if he still wanted to sleep with her, but he needed to know the role he played in our marriage. I didn't stick around to hear his apology. When I got back, Fiona was passed out. I took as much evidence of her affair from her phone as I could, and I waited for the morning when she'd be sober enough for me to have a discussion with her. I don't think I slept that night. I was awake the entire time, waiting for her to stir or waiting for morning. And morning came first. She had fallen asleep on the couch, and I had sat in one of the chairs waiting for her. When she woke up, I wanted to go straight into it, but I knew her being groggy would piss me off even more, so I gave her about 30 minutes to collect herself, and then I asked if she remembered what happened the previous day. She could remember going to hang out with friends and drinking, but she couldn't remember anything else. I asked her whether she could remember what she told me when she got back, but she said she couldn't. I let her know that I knew about Taylor, because she had basically told me herself while she was drunk, and she sat upright immediately. I continued and let her know that I had gone to confront him myself, while she was passed out like a degenerate. She couldn't believe that I had gone to see him because there was no way I could have figured out where he lived, but I told her it was a lot easier than she thought and that she could call him to confirm. It was funny to me that she didn't even try to deny the affair or say that I was mistaken about her relationship with Taylor. I asked why she did it. I wanted a reason as to why a woman who I hadn't even been married to for 5 years and who I just had a child with chose to cheat when I was always there for her. I told her that I needed an answer from her because I had to understand how much more she wanted me to do for her not to feel the need to cheat. I was doing way too much, though I now fully understand that you can never stop a cheater from cheating if they feel like cheating. That was when she said something that I nearly flipped out at. She said if I wanted to know why she did it, it was all your son's fault. I laughed because it seemed like the saddest way to dodge accountability, but she continued, and she was entirely serious. She said that our son had killed her vibe, and she was far from the person she used to be. She realized that after our son, her life had gotten so bleak, and even I was unappealing to her. Being a mother wasn't what she thought it was going to be, and she needed excitement. So she chose to get it from someone who wasn't me? She said I couldn't blame her all I wanted, but I didn't understand the struggles of a woman, especially a woman like her, who had struggled with postpartum depression after giving birth. She said that she hadn't found anything to truly excite her ever since we had our son, and because of that, she had to put her own happiness into her hands. She refused to let what was morally right stop her from that. She asked me whether I'd have preferred our son to grow up with a mother who wasn't happy with her life. That sounded stupid to me because there were so many other ways to chase happiness that didn't involve cheating. To be honest, I was actually speechless when she ended because not only did it seem like she was not remorseful, but the kind of reasoning she gave for why she chose to cheat was what was driving me nuts. I'm not trying to minimize what she suffered, but to try and use that as a reason to betray your wedding vows is wild. It was actually pretty appalling that she was trying to blame her infidelity on a child who was only 1. On top of that, I was far from an absent dad. Since I got used to it when she was dealing with postpartum depression, I took the lead in taking care of our child very often, so she wasn't even dealing with the struggles of the average mom. I eventually found my words and asked her whether she was really blaming the fact that she had gone to have an affair on our child. The worst part was that she defiantly nodded and said that was exactly what she was saying. In the moment, I realized that the fears that I had had about the lack of closeness to our son were real. I couldn't even tell if she really loved him, if she saw him as the thing that ruined her exciting life. It was at that moment that I knew I had to protect my boy from her, no matter what. I let her know right there that there was no future for us if she could say something like that. I told her that I would leave her life, and I'd take our son along with me, so she could have the life that she wanted so badly. I was annoyed by her asking what I meant when I said I'd take our son. I told her I wanted full custody. I think saying that gave me enough presence of mind to switch on my phone's recorder and tape the conversation from that point. She flipped out at me saying that, and I asked her why she was having such a strong reaction when she had already admitted that our 1-year-old son was the one holding her back from the exciting life that she wanted to have. If she wanted to get out, sleep with other men, and come home absolutely drunk, then she didn't need a child in her life to impede that. She told me that just because she had said it was our son's fault, that it didn't mean she didn't want anything to do with him. He's still my son. That part made me laugh so bad. I don't know where it came from. At that point, I just told her that we'd fight it out in court, and there was no point in her wasting her breath yet. I let her know that she had blamed our son for the dissatisfaction she was feeling in her life, and he wasn't safe around her. That triggered her, and she asked whether I was implying that she'd hurt our child. I let her know that I didn't know whether she would or not, but I refused to take her the risk. She warned me not to say that again, and I could see that she was shaking with rage. As much as I wished that I poked the bear, I'm glad I didn't, because I don't know how she might have reacted at that point. I let her know that she should find a good lawyer for the divorce, since I was going to get a lawyer to start filing that very day. I made good on that promise, and she let me know when she got a lawyer. The situation with our son made moving out tricky. She refused to let me move out with him, and she refused to move out without him, so we've still been living in the same house. However, once we get to the custody hearing, I'll be willing to move out since she'll be under way too much scrutiny for anything to happen to our son. Update. I'm so happy to say that I have successfully split from my ex-wife, Fiona, and everything worked out for me. Absolutely everything worked out the way that I wanted it to. Before I get into things, a lot of comments told me that I took a big risk taking my child to confront my ex-wife's affair partner, and I know that already. I pretty much said it in that post. However, I was acting in the moment, off of pure instinct. I know that it was stupid, and it thankfully didn't end in a bad way, so there's nothing to complain about. I certainly won't take such a risk ever again. When the divorce proceedings finally started, I wasn't surprised to see that Fiona and her lawyer were playing hardball. They wanted a lot more than I was willing to concede, and I was glad that my lawyer agreed that what they were asking for was ridiculous. She wanted to split custody down the middle and get alimony and child support because she didn't earn as much as I did, especially after she had to cut down her workload following childbirth. If we hadn't divorced because she cheated on me, I would have no issue supporting her when she had no job. I had already been doing that. However, she was the one who went to sleep with someone else, and now she was crying that there wouldn't be anyone to support her financially if I didn't pay alimony and child support. I refused to be used like that, though. I said she didn't deserve alimony because she was selfish and put her own desires over the marriage when it mattered most. She also didn't deserve child support, or even custody, because she clearly didn't care about our child as much as I did. I made sure that all my evidence of her affair was presented, so we all knew the situation. I guess from her side, I was playing hardball too, because I didn't want to give her anything either. The most I was willing to concede was my car, a 2020 model, which was fully paid off. I wasn't going to give her the apartment, I wasn't going to give her a drop of custody, and I wasn't going to give her any money. I wanted her to end up with nothing. Needless to say, we eventually went to court over it since we couldn't reach an agreement. The judge was a woman, and when I saw that, I already felt like it was over for me because courts take the side of women enough already. But when the judge is a woman, it was quite natural for me to feel it'd be even more likely. However, my lawyer said that I shouldn't make that conclusion about her because she was very grounded in her decisions. That turned out to be very true. When I presented all of my evidence, the judge took my side entirely. She acknowledged that pregnancy was tough and came with a lot of risks, but it didn't excuse Fiona for cheating or choosing to dodge accountability and blame her affair on our son. The split was entirely her fault, especially because there was enough proof that I was being a good father and trying to take a lot of the weight off of her. She paid me back by cheating on me, and she didn't deserve to win in the divorce. As a result, she walked away with essentially nothing. Even the car that I was ready to offer was left to me, because I got full custody of our baby for the first year, and I'd need a vehicle. The judge said that we'd revise the custody arrangement after the first year, but for now, she didn't deem Fiona to be well adjusted to be solely in charge of our child. However, she was allowed visitation, which I thought was fair enough. I don't want my child to grow up without a mother, but if she's going to be selfish and a bad influence, then I want that to be kept far away from my kid. I hope that Fiona will be mature enough to act as a proper mother to our son one day. That was enough revenge for me, but Fiona forced my hand when she started lying to people and saying that I lied about her to steal our son from her. She kept playing the mother card because that gets people emotional a lot quicker than father does. After all, what kind of monster would take a child from its mother? It was when the third person came to confront me that I decided to expose her. Initially, I exposed her to those 3 people and whoever came to confront me afterward, but I realized that she deserved worse than that. So I got ahead of any agenda that she wanted to spread about me, and I started letting as many people as possible know about the situation. All of them got the evidence that I had so that it wouldn't simply be my word against hers. They needed to know that the person they were fighting for had blamed a 1-year-old child for their lack of self-control and their lack of respect for the relationship that they were in. It was when people heard the recording that they suddenly weren't speechless, even though they had so much to say prior to that. It's funny how quick people can make a judgment based on one side of the story. But yeah, that's basically it. She left the marriage with basically nothing, not even custody of her child, and then she tried to badmouth me to other people. Thankfully, there was more than enough evidence for me to dispute the notion she was spreading that I was a bad husband and father. Now she has to deal with the consequences. Last I heard, she's moved back in with her parents. She only came around to see our son once since the divorce, and I don't think that's going to help with the custody revision later down the line. Being a single father is hard, admittedly, but I have a wonderful support circle helping take some of the weight off of me, and with that, I'm able to get enough time off from father duties to go to work and run errands. Generally speaking, though, I hope for everyone who might be getting a divorce due to something their partner did to end up out on top. The system needs to stop rewarding women and men who do wrong and make sure that we stop making divorce look like such an easy way out, even for wrongdoers. As for me, that will hopefully be the last update I give to this. I can't even wrap my head around Fiona blaming your 1-year-old for her own decisions. That's just wild. Like, how do you even come up with that excuse without laughing and crying at the same time? It's one thing to be unhappy. It's another to betray your family and then to try to pin it on a baby. The fact that she didn't even attempt to deny it when confronted just shows how detached she'd become. Fiona wanted custody, alimony, all that, but the judge saw the situation clearly. You came out of that whole nightmare with your child safe and secure, and honestly, that's the win that matters the most. Your son is lucky to have a dad who puts him first and won't let anyone else screw that up. Have you ever witnessed someone take parenthood as an excuse to completely trash their own marriage? Let us know below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.